Extreme Foolishness TV here. This is where I talk about extreme foolishness that goes on around you. I'm going to be making my second video about the Cardi B versus Tasha K's lawsuit. I made the first video and I put the link in the description so you guys can watch the video. I talked about what Tasha K did wrong, and my position was that Tasha K should have settled this case long before it was filed. Even after it was filed, she could have settled this case early, issuing an apology. However, the focus of this video is going to be that all hope is not lost. Tasha K can still win this case, even though her back is against the world. I will give you guys my legal expertise here. As a trial attorney who has sued people for defamation and won, as a civil litigator, and my experience in state and federal courts, I feel like Tasha K still has a chance of winning, but I don't think she has the right lawyers to pull it off. Right now, her back is against the wall. She has gotten on the stand and said she lied. But any trial lawyer that does civil litigation does not give up. Even though you have a client like Tasha K, you have to go and get creative and do what you have to do to win the case, since obviously she doesn't want to settle. First of all, we know that Tasha K talks a lot of stuff on YouTube. She's a gossip lady. This video may be a little bit long, so grab your popcorn. You can watch a little bit of it, but I'm about to put some knowledge out there. And if anyone knows Tasha K's lawyers, maybe they can send them this video. Maybe it may help their strategy. It may be a little bit too late for them, because this is the kind of strategy that you have to plan from the early on. Tasha K did say that Cardi B had an STI. I believe it was herpes. And she refused to take down the video. Cardi B reached out to her and said, hey, take the video down. She refused. But the lawyers Tasha K got are criminal defense lawyers. That is a dangerous move. The lawyers will get, more often than not, will determine the outcome of your case, whether or not you're going to prevail or not. From the very beginning, my opinion was that these were not the type of lawyers she should have gotten. You do not get criminal defense lawyers in a hardcore civil litigation case in federal court. She should have gotten lawyers who are well versed in trial work, civil trial work. So let's look at certain things. There's a public interest in having people make commentary about celebrities or a matter of public concern. Generally, judges do not like to chill speech. That is why we have the actual malice standard, which means that if you are a celebrity, a public figure, even if you just what we call a limited purpose public figure, you could be a regular person who gets thrusted into the limelight. The court may consider you a limited purpose public figure, and you will still have to show that the defendant, like Tasha K, committed actual malice, that she did not care whether what was said was true or false. So let's look at what Tasha K said. That she said Cardi B was a prostitute, and that Cardi B had an STI. Tasha K got on the stand and said it was false. First of all, Tasha K's lawyers never filed what we call a motion for summary judgment. It was only Cardi B's lawyers who filed it. Tasha K's lawyers should have filed it and said, hey, They haven't shown actual malice. I don't think the judge will have granted it, but at least they will have filed it to preserve it for appeal. They didn't file it. So they could have said, hey, Tasha K did not act with actual malice. Tasha K believed that because Cardi B used to work as a stripper, because Cardi B said she had drugged men and taken their money, that you could believe that she was a prostitute. That is an argument that you stretched it, but at least Tasha K should have understand that is what she should have said. But she didn't say anything like that. They just asked her. She said she lied. Tasha K, because obviously her lawyers did not do what we call preparing the witness for a trial. The witness was not prepared for trial. Tasha K was impeached a lot. They made her look like a liar. So Tasha K should have gotten an understanding and said, well, that was what I based my belief on. She's a celebrity. She said she used to work as a stripper. A lot of strippers are prostitutes. So I just connected the dots. So I haven't acted with actual malice. That was the basis. That is a stretch. And Cardi B may have told me that she was not a prostitute. But that doesn't mean who's going to come out and admit that they're a prostitute. Who's going to come out and admit that they have an STI? My assumption was that, hey, I talk a lot of smack. I talk a lot of crap based on her prior history, based on her song. She made a song talking about she got that whap. That whap, whap, whap. That I just connected the dots and assumed that, maybe she was a prostitute. Maybe she had an STI. That's what I assumed. At least that is a better argument than just go out there and saying I lied because I wanted to get ratings. I wanted to get views. The jury may be sympathetic towards, I won't say sympathetic, but at least she had a better chance convincing a jury to show that Cardi B did not meet the actual malice standard, because without meeting that actual malice standard, Cardi B has no case. But instead, Tasha K just went out there and said, I lied. I did it for ratings. That looks bad. So if her lawyers can find some kind of a way to argue that and say based on Cardi B's history, but whatever doesn't come into evidence, you cannot technically argue it, although lawyers will stretch and make arguments and closing arguments. But that was one way that Tasha K could possibly win this case. Because after Cardi B rests her case, Tasha K's lawyers can move and ask the judge to throw it out. It's what we call a directed verdict. Tasha K's lawyers are going to ask the judge and say, hey, based on the facts and the testimony, based on the fact that Cardi B used to be a dancer, based on the fact that Cardi B has said in her own words, she has drugged men and robbed them. I just assumed that she was a prostitute. It is a stretch, but still gives you a chance. The second way that I feel like Tasha K could win is she can pull the Tucker Carlson. This method has worked for Fox News. Karen McDougal sued Tucker Carlson before for defamation. I believe Tucker Carlson said that, I'm paraphrasing here, that Karen McDougal extorted former President Trump, extorted $150,000 from him or something to that effect. Tucker Carlson was sued. Fox News was sued for defamation. What did Fox News argue? Let's look at this. This article says Tucker Carlson appears to be made of Teflon. Fox News top-rated host has been repeatedly accused of anti-immigrant and racist comments. What happened when Tucker Carlson was sued and Fox News? Tucker Carlson argued in court. He said no reasonable person would believe the words that come out of his own mouth. He said you cannot expect to literally believe the words that comes out of Tucker Carlson's mouth. This was the argument that Tucker Carlson made in New York, Southern District of New York. U.S. District Judge Mary Kay, she said the general tenor of Tucker Carlson's show should then inform a viewer that Carlson is not stating actual facts about the topics he discussed and is instead engaging in exaggeration and non-literal commentary. She said Fox persuasively argues that given Mr. Carlson's reputation, any reasonable viewer will arrive with an appropriate amount of skepticism about the statement he makes. Tasha K's lawyers can argue in front of the judge and say no reasonable person will believe the words that come out of Tasha K's mouth. That no reasonable person will believe that somebody drinking wine on stage who looks like they're drunk will say something that's straight, and no reasonable person will take her words literally. That her YouTube show, it's non-literal commentary and a gross exaggeration. That is a joke that anybody in their right mind would not believe what I say. This argument worked for Tucker Carlson and Fox News, people. They get on TV, spew a lot of BS, a lot of lies. When they get sued, they said no reasonable person will believe the words that come out of Tucker Carlson's mouth. People, this has been done in court. This is civil litigation. But you have to set it up. This should have been done in a motion for summary judgment, which her lawyers did not file. As a matter of fact, the Judge William Ray, admonished Tasha K's lawyers as being unprofessional and that they filed a response to Cardi B's motion for summary judgment. They filed a response late. So this is another angle Tasha K can take to give herself a chance at winning. Once Cardi B rests her case, they can move for a directed verdict and ask the judge to throw it out. It doesn't mean the judge will grant it, but at least you try when your back is against the wall. This is the argument. And it worked. The judge presiding over the case where Fox News was sued dismissed the defamation lawsuit, slander suit against Tucker Carlson. And they said it was a win for First Amendment principles and the media more generally. The judge ruled that Karen McDougal failed to surmount the challenge. And this has raised a lot of questions. What level of fact checking does Fox News expect or subject its opinion shows to? Again, this is not the first time people have made this argument. A $10 million libel lawsuit was filed by One American News Network against Rachel Maddow of MSNBC. The judge ruled in favor of Rachel Maddow. She said, the context of Maddow's statement shows reasonable viewers would consider the contested statement to be opinion. So this is what Tasha K's lawyers need to be doing. That Tasha K is just BSing. She's doing it for the show. The half of the time she's probably drunk. That people know she's doing it for ratings. She has to own her lies at this point. She has to own those lies. She got to own them. She has to say, I'm just BSing. I'm just saying whatever. Take what I say with a grain of salt. Will it work? I don't know. But still better than the BS arguments to go on the stand and admit and say, oh, I'm lying, I'm a liar, I'm just doing it for ratings. That is a lose-lose strategy. Whatever I said, it's not legal advice. It may be a little bit too late for Tasha K, because it looks like it's going to be a hefty judgment against her. But these are the things that may need to be said to preserve this case for appeal. So there's a judgment against her. In Georgia here, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals can reverse the judgment. But you have to preserve the issues for appeal. You have to. And judges have a general inclination to protect the First Amendment. They have a general inclination to protect speech. They have a general inclination to encourage people to talk freely about celebrities. They do not want you lying and all that stuff. That is why we have the actual malice standard. But if Fox News has used this argument before, saying that no reasonable person, no person in their right mind will believe the BS Tucker Carlson says, then Tasha K should be entitled to use that too. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Appreciate you guys for watching this long video. Subscribe, hit the bell. I'm going to be dropping much more legal and extreme foolishness analysis. My motivation for the law and my complete and unequivocal disdain for extreme foolishness is what drives me to keep talking about these topics and making these videos. Thank you once again for watching. Appreciate you guys. Stay safe out there, my lovely family. Most importantly, say no to extreme foolishness.